So I'm in the middle of transitioning our HSA to a new provider or administrator, whatever the terminology is. Um, I am in love with the HSA, the health savings account in the US. You're eligible for an HSA if you have a high deductible health plan. Now, granted, um, let's talk. So, granted, you have to always keep your eye on risk and uncertainty. So, if you're somebody that is likely to have a lot of medical bills or a lot of health problems, doing the high deductible plan, like a less rich health insurance plan, might not be the best situation. Like if you're in remission from cancer or, something like that. Like medical bills, I think, are one of the leading causes of bankruptcy. So keep your eye on risk and minimize the risk first. But if you're healthy or your family, everyone in your family is healthy, um, and you expect them to stay that way for the most part, I think that this, I don't want to get on a side tangent of like how messed up the health care system is, or you know, the medical system, but and the cost of those are going way up, just out of control. So something's going to have to give. But I really like the aspect of thinking of like having this account that you have ownership over. I think that gives you a different viewpoint when you pay a healthcare provider. It's actually your money you're using and not the insurance company. You're not thinking of it as someone else's money paying for the service. So you're more inclined to take ownership over what the bill will end up being if you have if it's, any kind of situation that's somewhat elect, elected. So anyway, if you're a good fit for a high deductible health plan, the health savings account is really a great thing. It gives you the ability to set aside money and then also invest it. It's not the greatest thing in the world in the sense of fees, because a lot of times these are through banks or yeah, we'll get to it. But anyway, there's a really good article by the Mad Scientist talking about the health savings account, and let's see, he looks like he's updated it because he's dated it 2022, but he wrote this a long time ago. But he's basically saying that the HSA is like a super IRA, and the reason being, like a 401k or a traditional IRA, you put tax-free money in, it grows tax-free, but when you use it, it's taxed. The Roth IRA is taxed ahead of going into the account, and then it grows any investment that you have in the account, if there is growth, it grows tax-free, and then it's withdrawn tax-free. With the health savings account, though, you have tax-free money going in, so pre-tax dollars go into into your account, and then in that account you can invest. You can choose to invest some percentage, if not almost all, within the account in your typical like stocks or bonds usually. And then I actually don't know if I've ever seen any investment outside of that would be available in a traditional brokerage. So maybe REITs, so you could have stocks, bonds, or REITs. Um, yeah. So anyway, when you need to withdraw the money, you can withdraw it tax free. Now the cool part is you can delay. You can use it on eligible medical expenses when you take it out, and then after a certain age, like 65, I believe it is, you can withdraw the money penalty free. but you would pay tax on it if it's not used for medical expenses. Now, the cool thing is, all along the way, if you paid for, you can just delay your HSA distribution. So you're in charge of paying yourself and keeping track of, you know, I had this expense on this date from this provider, this healthcare provider, and then have proof of that, like a receipt of that. And as long as you keep up with that, you could pay yourself back anytime in the future. There's no time limit of when you have to be reimbursed or when you have to reimburse yourself. So it's kind of cool that if you saved up, like you pay out of pocket when you have medical expenses, at any point in the future, you can just choose to reimburse yourself. So you could like accumulate a lot of these recorded medical expenses and then withdraw from this account prior to retirement, tax-free and penalty-free, kind of systematically. So, say you have a few $100s of expenses every year. It's not like you can live off of that in the future, but like if you're planning early retirement and you have, this is like an extra source of income that could be tax-free, even without necessarily having some kind of major medical situation. But, we're guaranteed, if we don't die beforehand, we're guaranteed to need medical care. So, unless something catastrophic happens and you die immediately, you may never use it. But, this is just, it's really a cool thing. You should check it out if you've never looked into it. So anyway, what I'm in the middle of is my wife's employer, where we have our HSA, has changed administrators, and they're switching from Optum Bank to HSA Bank, and it looks like HSA Bank uses it's going to use TD Ameritrade for the brokerage account within, or to be able to invest. And I don't have any problem with that, I guess. I don't know much about TD Ameritrade. I know somebody that uses them, and they really like them. They seem to be helpful. And it looks like their fees aren't crazy expensive. My annoyance is just how difficult it is to see what the expenses are and really be able to compare providers. Like, I'm annoyed that I'm being encouraged to transfer the account to this new provider with a very measly reward. There's like a little bit of a financial incentive to move. If we choose not to move, which at this point we've chosen not to move, it ends up becoming a retail account at Optum Bank. And so there's like a small, like $3.75 fee monthly. So my plan right now is, after kind of I use this article at Investopedia to try and compare. This is saying the 7 best health savings accounts for 2020 or 2022. This is meaningless in my opinion, because best overall they're saying is this health savings administrators. Best for no fee. Oh, also your health savings account, depending on how you use it, understand that I'm looking at it solely from the standpoint of an investment. I don't care about how easy it is to use the debit card, or whether they have a cool app that you can keep up with your balance and make a lot of transactions. If you're that kind of person, you need to not take my advice. I'm coming from the standpoint of which is going to be lowest fee and pretty much lowest fee, and allow me to invest the money with the lowest fees. So I don't really care from the standpoint of being reimbursed, because I'm not in that phase. I don't need to be reimbursing myself. And I'm not using the health savings account in that way. Our our strategy is to try to pay out of pocket as much as possible any medical expense and then reimburse ourselves at a later date. Now, just and the reason for that is so that the money that you have in there that's tax-free money that you put in is growing tax-free. So if I don't withdraw it, it's going to help me in the long term accumulate more than if I withdraw that money tax-free now. I'm thinking through, is that really true? Yeah. I mean, the more you don't spend, don't sell the investments, hold the investment. It'll do, it's more to compound for the future. That's basically what it boils down to. So what I noticed, this HSA bank was on here as best for no minimum balance requirement. Okay, well, usually the minimum balance requirement is like $1,000 or, I mean, currently at Optum Bank, I think it's $1,000. So you have to keep $1,000 in cash, and then anything on top of that will get automatically invested into whatever your portfolio is that you build. So I have experience with Optum Bank, which isn't on this list. I've heard a lot of people tout Fidelity. So I'm kind of setting that aside. I only because I don't have personal experience and I can't. I don't know. I lean more towards Vanguard, so I kind of started there, and I was like, okay, well, what does Vanguard recommend as far as a health savings account? And it's this health equity company is apparently partnered with Vanguard. So my plan right now is to roll the Optum account into the health equity, into an account at Health Equity, and then just start a new account through HSA Bank. That should give me insight into at least those three: Optum, HSA Bank, and Health Equity. And maybe I can kind of compare for you and let you know later what I think of those three. Optum Bank is fine if you have the option. I really think I'm comparing like all good companies against each other and trying to pick the best. But I really think, depending on what you have available, the reason we still have the HSA with my wife's employer, is because I think it has to be with their chosen HSA in order for them to pay to do their they contribute a little bit to the account annually. I don't think they would do that if you were using, because it wouldn't be a payroll deduction. Like you would be doing it yourself, like a contribution after you got paid. And I love like hiding money from ourselves. Like if it's a payroll deduction, you don't see it. It just happens before the direct deposit hits the account. So anytime I can do that, that's the way to go. And then, if they're doing some kind of contribution, so sort of a match in a sense, they're helping out with the contribution. That's an even bigger bonus. So right now, the new contributions should go into HSA Bank. Currently, our account is still with Optum, but it will shift. I don't know if you use rollover, if that's the correct terminology, but I'll transfer that to Health Equity and check them out. I guess that's it. I'll have to report back after I've had a little time, or maybe after this transfer process goes through. It's probably going to be a bit of a pain. Forms to sign, and return and mail. I don't know I'll probably end up having to mail forms, which is so ridiculous. The thing that does bother me is how crazy it is that it takes so long for money to transfer. Anytime you do these transfers from provider to or brokerage to brokerage, it's like, this isn't 100% of the time, but a lot of times what they're doing is they're selling the investments into cash. Then the money is getting transferred, and then you reinvest the money at the new provider, or the new brokerage. The annoying thing is if the market is going up and I sell and then move the money, and if it takes days for that to happen and the market continues to climb, and then I have to reinvest. So I'm buying in at a higher price than when I sold. So it would be really nice, though there's not a good way to do this because you can never time the market well. But it would be nice if the market went down in value as I went through this process. But, I'm sure I'll lose out on a little bit of growth because anyway, I guess I'm telling you, like, the market should go up because I'm about to sell a bunch and move it to another account. So I'll get screwed and maybe you guys could benefit. All right, I'll check back in. Oh, well, let's go through some of this. So with the health savings, this is health savings administrators. This article is okay. I feel like it was kind of written in a way where they could put a different name for each of these categories. Like they create like awards for different characteristics in order to be able to talk about each one and make everybody feel good. I don't like annual fees. Like anytime you're gonna, this one sounded interesting. Annual fee though, and I was looking at these two mainly, the HSA bank. There often is a fee, a small fee to close your account, which I'll end up having to pay probably in the transfer of my account. I think it probably is a $25 fee. I think I remember that from Optum Bank. And then there's like an account management fee if your balance is below 3,000. So this one's going to require a $3,000 minimum balance, it sounds like, to avoid the fee before investing. Let's see. These cons, Fidelity like has a lot of low cost investments, so I really feel like this con really isn't a factor because you can just choose not to have it invested in some of the offerings that have a high expense ratio. So 1%, anything over 1% is high. Anything over probably 0.5 is kind of high in my opinion. So if you can get something, you should be able to get something lower than that. Health equity, this is what we're planning to switch to. Minimum balance requirement to invest, but I feel like that's kind of typical, and it sort of makes sense. Like if you keep about $1,000 or some minimum balance, you can you already have money in cash, so if you need it, it's like immediately withdrawn. I did think it was funny that this is a pro, that it's nationally endorsed by the Dave Ramsey Show. Like, come on, why is that a factor? I guess that's pro for health equity because that's advertising. Yeah, and I don't know anything about that. Was the last one. So I'll just I'll report back whatever I find out and let you know how it goes.